All right. At the same time, the former President Trump had sat for an interview with David Brody. We actually covered a piece of this earlier in the week. But there was another noteworthy moment where he got asked about potential contender Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Trump's comments here, kind of noteworthy. Let's take a listen.
I got him elected, pure and simple. He would have never, if I said I wasn't going to endorse you, and I was close, there was no reason to go wild about endorsing him. He was one of about 100 congressmen who fought for me. And so, I felt I might as well endorse him because I didn't know Adam Putnam. But he was at 3. He was ready to drop out of the race. It was all done. Adam Putnam had that nomination locked up, the Republican nomination for governor of Florida. He had it locked up. It was done. And when as Adam Putnam said to me when I met him a year later, I didn't know him at all, but I saw him. He said it was like a nuclear bomb went off, a nuclear weapon went off when you endorsed him. And the race was over. He said he didn't even spend his money. There was no way he could have beaten him after I endorsed him. So, now I hear he might want to run against me. So we'll handle that the way I handle things.
We'll handle that the way I handled it.
Yeah, what did you think of that?
Oh, I thought it was a great answer. That's exactly what I've said.
Classic Trump.
It's funny. I interviewed Trump the day after the midterm, maybe like 2 days after the midterm, something. He was really angry. And one of the first, he was like, look at this guy, Ron DeSantis. He was nobody, down 33. I endorsed him. He shot up to #1. So he's had this in his head for a long time.
Yeah,
and he hates the amount of press that DeSantis is getting, the whole Ron DeSanctimonious thing. And it just, look, this also highlights, even if you're not going to run against Trump, even if you're not actively doing it, if the media even anoints you, he'll just start attacking you. And we covered that poll just yesterday, on Tuesday, where we looked at the fact that Trump continues to have 46% support amongst likely GOP primary voters. I also think that the longer time moves on from the midterms, it's always going to be stronger in his favor. And then, of course, the only real scenario where this would probably work is if it was a true head-to-head matchup, and who the hell thinks that's actually going to happen?
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You've got too many people with too many egos who think that this is their moment. I covered on Tuesday, like Glenn Youngkin looks very much like he's going to run, even though he's sitting at like 0% in the polls. He's convinced himself that since he won in Virginia at a time when Republican fortunes were at their greatest, and he happened to sort of stumble into the right moment at the right time, but he's persuaded himself that that means he's like some great political talent and genius. So he's probably going to run. You got Nikki Haley who wants to run. You got friggin' John Bolton who wants to run, Mike Pompeo, Mike Pence, all of these people. And individually, they may not garner that much support, but it doesn't take that much support for them to eat into the maybe we're not with Trump contingent of the GOP base before it just becomes impossible for anyone to ultimately take him down. But listen, we got a long way to go between now and then. Anything can happen, so who knows? I will say he's fixated on this particular line of attack against DeSantis, basically like I made you and you're being disloyal. I genuinely don't know how that lands with the GOP. Do they care? Do they care about that loyalty test or not? I think there's a contingent of them that do, but there might be other stronger points to make against Ron DeSantis.
I really have no idea. It's certainly possible. The other one, I think really what it is that instead of disloyalty, it's I'm the supreme. I'm the, at the
I'm
top.
the alpha.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the one, the alpha at the top. I anointed you. You're the next generation.
You're just like a copycat.
You can follow after me. When I'm done, then sure, you can go ahead and take the mantle. But for now, when it's my time on the stage, don't you dare. And I think that's just always going to be the case. Honestly, even while he's alive, even if he's not an active candidate for president, you're always going to have to go and kiss the ring if you want to do that. And the other thing is DeSantis is a prideful man. He's a very popular governor of Florida.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to do that. So you got a contest of wills right now.
Yeah. Another little interesting note is there's this one advisor to Trump now. What's her name? Christy Wiles?
Yes.
Christy Wiles, who was a top advisor to DeSantis and now is basically running Trump's campaign. He had run his campaign in Florida before. And she seems to be a pretty key piece here because this is someone who had kind of a falling out with DeSantis.
Susan Wiles, I apologize.
Susan Wiles,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Susan Wiles. So had kind of a falling out with DeSantis. And the thought is, she would know better than anyone how to get under his skin, what his vulnerabilities are, et cetera. So that's an interesting thing to just kind of keep your eye on in terms of the inside baseball here. Moving on to the next piece. So Trump has been shockingly quiet since he announced his presidential campaign. He did the infamous lunch with Nick Fuentes and Kanye West, but we really haven't heard much from him other than that. Well, it looks like they, in the new year, are now beginning to ramp up somewhat. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen from Politico. We've got some first details about what he plans to do. They say Trump prepares to open next phase of 2024 campaign in South Carolina. The former president will hold a more intimate event than his typical rallies in the key state later this month. And of course, South Carolina in the Republican primary process is one of the early states, so it's important here. They say he's slated to make an appearance in late January in Columbia, South Carolina. It's not going to be a rally, but as I said before, this more intimate event with sort of, key players, leaders, donors, that sort of thing. They're casting the plans as part of a gradual build-out of the former president's campaign following a relatively private month and a half since a November launch that coincided with the holiday season. I mean, a couple things. First of all, the choice of South Carolina. As I just said, it's early in the Republican primary process, so it matters from that perspective. You also have two potential candidates who hail from the state in Senator Tim Scott and also his former UN ambassador, Nikki Haley. So could be something, going on there as well. And then the other thing to note is we were talking about Susan Wiles, this advisor before. She seems to be taking a very different approach to his campaign rollout than they did last time around in 2020 in the unsuccessful effort. We covered, they were blowing through cash like crazy.
Hundreds of millions.
Tons of staff, had like a, gleaming headquarters in Northern Virginia. This time they're keeping it more bare bones, much smaller in terms of staff. The campaign office has used furniture and is in a strip mall or something like that. So it's a much lower key kind of affair. And she seems to be approaching the rollout in a lower key direction as well, instead of jumping out of the gates with these big rallies, which generate media coverage and generate enthusiasm, but also are quite expensive.
Yes.
So that's the trade-off there.
And we shouldn't forget, South Carolina, things were a little bit on the edge. He loses in Iowa. He does win in New Hampshire, but South Carolina was his second primary. I just looked it up. He won by 32% of the vote. So it's an important state there. And also, you can also work your way back up the calendar, thinking about Iowa caucuses and New Hampshire and cementing your role in both. I had seen, and I know we covered before, a poll which showed DeSantis neck and neck with Trump in New Hampshire. So very likely that Trump also will try to make inroads there. It's actually a smart move, which is if you think that there is any sort of threat to you, you want to lock down those early states, that the media momentum going into Super Tuesday says that you don't have a chance in hell if you're coming up against Trump. So I look at this, actually, I think it's a smart move. You're also getting the Republican political establishment, people like Lindsey Graham becoming his South Carolina co-chair and part of the leadership team. You want to lock that down. You want to get the political machine in process. So they're making moves, even though it is very sleepy down in Mar-a-Lago right now.
Yes, indeed. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us. And if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.